Welcome to this short presentation to help you write a personal statement for your teacher training applications. In this session, I'll be advising you on what you should include and giving you some examples to help you understand what I mean. I'll also be giving you some practical advice regarding your online application and finally provide further resources to help you. So, getting the practical stuff out of the way, leave yourself plenty of time to prepare your statement. Definitely don't just send your first draft. Admissions tutors tell us that as long as you meet the entry requirements, this is the part of the form that they will usually base the decision on. You've only got one statement, but you've got three choices. So just be aware that you have to write a statement that covers all your three choices. You can't tailor it to each particular one. It's UCAS again, so you only have 47 lines to persuade them that you have what it takes. And this form is different from the one that you've used to apply for your undergraduate degree because it has a separate experience section, which is where you can list your school experiences as well as voluntary work and paid jobs, even if they're unrelated to teaching. We suggest that you don't type your statement straight into the form. Do it in Word and paste it in when you are happy with it. Make sure you spell check it and then check it again and get somebody else to read it as well. Potential teachers need to show really good spelling and grammar, so a poorly presented application may mean you get rejected immediately. After you've pasted it in and saved it, check to see that everything that you wrote has fitted in. And a word of caution, don't be tempted to copy a great statement that you found on the internet. The plagiarism software will catch you and you could well be rejected. So what are admissions tutors for teacher training looking for when reading your statement? Basically, they want to know two things. Do you really want to be a teacher? And will you be a really great teacher? So I'm going to take these one at a time. And here are some things that we recommend that you don't use or certainly don't rely too heavily on. I've always wanted to teach. We see that a lot and it just isn't true. You weren't born wanting to teach, and in any case, career decisions made when you were 5 years old probably aren't to be relied on. Neither is it wise to go on too much about what an important and worthy job teaching is. I agree that it is, but that doesn't mean to say that I want to be a teacher. And finally, don't focus too much on how you enjoyed teaching your own children. You will probably find spending time in a class of other people's children, it's going to be much more challenging. So, but having said this, it is okay to say that teaching your own children was the catalyst that got you interested in teaching and prompted you to explore it further by getting some experience in schools. So here are some ideas. As I said, you can mention what first inspired you to teach, but it's important that you explain how you confirmed that teaching is the right career for you, rather than just going with your first instinct. So that might be by arranging to do experience in a school and by speaking to teachers. You can also explain why you've chosen to train for primary or secondary teaching. Perhaps you think you'll enjoy the variety of teaching a wide range of subjects in primary, or why you would enjoy teaching your own subject in secondary. So let's have a look at a couple of examples. This is the kind of thing that applicants often write. Lots of good reasons for wanting to teach listed here. So first glance, it actually doesn't look too bad, but I'm going to show you what the main problem here is for me. And that is that the statement solely focuses on what the applicant would like to do. So, you know, if they're that enthusiastic and passionate about teaching, why haven't they been out and done it by getting some experience in a school? I don't think teacher training providers really mind what your motivation for teaching is, as long as it shows that you have an understanding of the role of a teacher and that you can convince them that you really want to do it. So they don't want to give you a place on the programme, and then when you get onto your first placement, you find that you don't like it. So you need to show that you have checked that teaching really is the right career for you. It's much more convincing if you can write a statement that says that you've had some experience and what it was that you really liked about it. So I think here's a better explanation of someone's reasons for wanting to teach, and I'll take you through it bit by bit. So there's a nice strong opening, bringing in some experience that they've had. Then the second bit explains why this prompted an interest in teaching. They're using nice positive words such as thrived and loved. Then they go on to say what they did next to find out more and check that it was the right career for them. And finally, some positive reasons for their career choice. So you can pack quite a lot in into a fairly compact paragraph. So turning to the question of persuading the selectors that you have the potential to be a teacher, obviously they want to know what your strengths are. And so that means you sitting down and working out for yourself what they are. Remember that you're applying for teacher training. So these strengths need to relate to the role of a teacher and the strengths that teachers need to have. So I'm going to talk about that more in a moment. So it isn't enough just to say that you have these strengths, you need to provide evidence. I mean, I think a good starting point for that is thinking about what it is that you are really proud of, that you really want the selectors to know about you. So sometimes just taking a blank piece of paper and just jotting down some of the things that you think are real highlights for you. So regarding the qualities for teaching, here's a word cloud of lots of the qualities that a teacher needs, which is supposed to help you think a bit more broadly about what your strengths are. Remember that teachers don't just need to be lovely with children. They also need skills like leadership, time management, initiative. So, you know, I mean, you're going to be in charge of a large class of children. You're going to be managing teaching assistants. You're going to be dealing with crises. So you need to show them that you are ready to step up and take on all those responsibilities, that you're resilient, that you've, you know, we know that teaching is a tough job. So have you had setbacks? Can you really kind of cope with it? So lots and lots of things that you can bring in. So as I said, it's definitely worth spending some time thinking about what your strengths are in relation to teaching. And then let's think about what when we talked about evidence. So what do we mean? We don't mean something official or written down on a, you know, a signed piece of paper or anything particularly major. It's just about providing examples to back up and illustrate what you are saying about yourself. So the claims that you're making about what you're good at. And pretty much everything you've done can be used. So ideally, some of this will be experience in classrooms or with young people. But remember that many of your strengths have been developed and demonstrated in other contexts, and the selectors will definitely take these into account. So think about what you've done, you know, jobs and voluntary work, hobbies, learning and projects from your course, and think carefully about what you want to use your experiences to show. So don't just state the obvious. You know, for example, the person reading it is going to probably already know that if you've worked in a shop, that you have developed good communication skills. So just think a bit more imaginatively and a bit deeper. Have you learned to deal with difficult situations, to calm down angry customers? I'm thinking parents here, or working under pressure. So focusing a bit on some of these. So firstly, experience in the classroom. It is important. Some providers say that you must have a minimum number of days, for example, 10 days. So they really place a lot of weight upon it. So it needs to come fairly early in your statement. So don't forget that, as I said before, you've got the experience section to provide a detailed description of what you did, and then you can use the personal statement to provide some analysis of it. So again, back to showing that you can think like a teacher. So can you compare, for example, different experiences, such as working with Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 pupils? What were the differences? How did you have to adapt your approach in the two settings? So examples to illustrate it are good. I'm going to show you some in a moment. So as I say, it's about thinking about it from a teacher's point of view, maybe in terms of planning good lessons or managing the classroom. And finally, a word of caution about the language that you use. For example, I've seen people who've used phrases such as problem pupils, so avoid labels like these. Here's an example about encouraging understanding by getting children to support each other's learning. So it provides some nice specific details such as the subject and the year group, which just make it sound much more real and convincing. Here's another one that could be used to illustrate all sorts of things like creativity, imagination, problem solving. Think as well in terms of what you've achieved. So how can you show that you have a positive impact on children? And here's an example of that. You're probably thinking by now, I only have 47 lines. You do, and that's why you need to make sure you're using the experience section as much as you can for the description, and just choose a couple of really good examples and describe them really concisely, and make sure that they're making the points that you want to make about yourself. You can include, if you want, some information about your ability to teach the national curriculum. So for secondary, you could highlight your choice of modules and your dissertation and maybe how they relate to the national curriculum. What are your particular interests in your subject area? What are you looking forward to teaching? For primary, you could mention, because you're teaching right across the board, you could mention the subjects that you are particularly strong in, and perhaps the things you're doing to improve on your weaker areas. Maybe you're taking an art class, maybe you've started brushing up on your maths. Interests are relevant. Certainly for primary, you can use a lot of interest, whether it's art or drama or dance or sport or many things, into the curriculum, but also could you enhance the life of the school through extracurricular activities such as, say, music or drama. As I said before, even jobs that seem to have no relevance to teaching can be used to show relevant skills. So as an example here, remember, you won't just be working with the children, you're going to be dealing with parents as well. I don't want to give you a structure to follow because everyone has different experiences and you want your statement to be unique to you. However, I do think you definitely need a structure, otherwise your statement gets a bit rambling. So I'd probably suggest starting with the paragraph about why you believe teaching is the right career for you and what you've done to confirm that, which allows your enthusiasm to come across early on. But the order of the rest of the statement really depends on what you think your strongest evidence is. As a general rule, you need to try to impress the person reading it as early as possible. So you think about what your strongest points are and place those fairly high up. So it's always good practice to have each paragraph about something. So, for example, you might have a paragraph about your classroom experience. You might have a paragraph about your subject knowledge, about other work experience, about your hobbies and interests. So, but the order of them is up to you. I'm going to leave you with a checklist to use to for you to assess whether your statement is good enough before you click send. It's easy to get bogged down in the detail, but I definitely recommend that you sort of take a step back from it and consider whether it shows that you really want to teach, that you've definitely put in that you've shown that you've got the right personality and skills to be a great teacher, that you're not going to get onto your first teaching placement on the course and decide it's not for you. So, I mean, teacher training is very, very intensive and you need to show, it's only about 9 months, so you need to show that you're a little sponge and you're absorbing knowledge and skills and insights from every opportunity that you've had. So, you know, show that you really are, you know, genuine about it. So, can you reflect? And finally, don't allow poor spelling and grammar to let you down. So there's plenty of advice out there about how to write personal statements for teaching. The UCAS site and the Get Into Teaching website, the government website, both have useful guidance. If you Google it, you'll find several teacher training providers who've put videos on YouTube explaining what they like to see in a personal statement. I'll also leave you with the address of the Student Futures portal, which is where you can sign up to events and make appointments with a careers advisor to get feedback on your statement. There are other videos like this created by the Student Futures team, and here are some of them. Finally, this is the Student Futures website where you will find information about all our services. Thanks for watching.